There comes a moment in life when repeated setbacks begin to feel personal, not just unfortunate, but almost like proof that you were never meant to win in the first place. Maybe you poured your savings into a venture that collapsed before it ever found its footing. Maybe you tried again, convinced the first attempt was just bad timing, only to watch the second fall apart too. After enough disappointments, the voices around you grow louder. Friends suggest something safer. Family hints at stability. People start saying it might be time to be realistic. But here is the uncomfortable truth most people never understand. Failure is not the enemy of success. It is the entry fee. It is the tuition you pay to learn what books and advice alone can never teach. This is the story of a man named Daniel who stumbled not once or twice but over and over again. He lost money. He lost credibility. He lost his confidence. At one point, he even lost his home. And yet, years later, he built a company worth 8 figures. What changed was not luck or sudden genius. What changed was how he approached the game. Daniel grew up in a modest industrial city where factory smoke blended with river mist, and most people aimed for security, not ambition. His childhood was comfortable enough. His father owned a small neighborhood printing shop that provided steady income. They were not wealthy, but they were stable. Daniel attended college, graduated with decent grades, and could have stepped straight into the family business. That would have been the safe path, but safety never excited him. He wanted to build something that carried his name. At 22, fresh out of school and filled with confidence, he used his savings to open a store selling mobile phone accessories. Smartphones were becoming popular, and he believed he had spotted an opportunity early. He imagined customers lining up, growth happening fast, profits rolling in. Instead, 8 months later, he shut the doors. He had misjudged demand, overspent on inventory, and underestimated competition. $15,000 vanished. His father gently suggested he join the printing shop and learn a stable trade. Daniel heard something else in that offer. He heard surrender. Rather than accept that path, he doubled down. At 23, he launched an online tutoring platform. He spent nearly a year designing a website, recruiting instructors, and marketing to parents. He believed the digital space would free him from rent and overhead. The idea sounded smart on paper. In reality, he struggled to attract attention. After 12 long months, he had only 3 paying customers and revenue that barely covered hosting costs. He shut it down quietly. The next year, he tried food delivery. That failed. After that came a clothing boutique, then an event planning service. Each new attempt carried fresh hope and ended with fresh losses. Money drained from his accounts. Conversations in his town changed tone. People no longer asked about his plans with curiosity. They spoke about him with amusement or pity. His old classmates moved forward in traditional careers, buying cars and homes. Daniel collected lessons he did not yet know how to use. At 27, the pattern felt undeniable. His 6th serious venture, a digital marketing agency, seemed promising at first. He secured a small loan, rented a modest office, and hired 2 employees. For a brief moment, it looked real. Then clients left faster than they came. Cash flow dried up. Payroll became impossible. The landlord demanded rent he could not pay. Eventually, the business collapsed under its own weight. That was the blow that forced him to declare personal bankruptcy. The word itself felt heavy. Bankruptcy meant more than financial loss. It meant public acknowledgement of failure. Daniel moved back into his childhood bedroom at 28 years old. The same posters on the walls, the same narrow bed. His father spoke less. His mother cried quietly when she thought he was asleep. Daniel applied for jobs and received rejection after rejection. At night, doubt whispered that maybe everyone else had been right. One evening, sitting alone with rejection letters spread across his desk, Daniel made a decision that surprised even him. He would try once more, not endlessly, not recklessly, one final attempt. If it failed, he promised himself he would accept that entrepreneurship was not his path. But he needed a last chance to prove something, not to the town, not to his family, but to himself. The problem was money. Banks would not lend to someone with bankruptcy on his record. Investors would not take calls. So he swallowed his pride and took a job as a waiter at an upscale restaurant. Every night he served executives and business owners who spoke casually about deals worth more than he had ever seen. He listened carefully. He observed how they thought, how they analyzed risk, how they spoke about strategy rather than hope. Serving them felt humiliating at first, but slowly it became an education. One regular customer, an older businessman named Mr. Harrison, noticed him. After weeks of brief exchanges, Mr. Harrison made a simple comment one evening. He told Daniel that he seemed too sharp to be carrying plates forever. The remark caught him off guard. Most people saw him as the man who kept failing. Mr. Harrison saw curiosity. When pressed, Daniel admitted his history of unsuccessful ventures. Instead of reacting with ridicule, the older man leaned back and said something unexpected. He confessed that before his first major success, he had failed 11 times. He had lost his house. He had slept in his car. He had nearly lost his marriage. Success, he explained, was not a straight line but a series of corrections. He offered to mentor Daniel for a short period, but only if Daniel was ready to learn instead of repeating old habits. They agreed to meet early the next morning. At dawn, Daniel stood outside Mr. Harrison's office, determined not to waste the opportunity. Inside, among awards and framed achievements, was a small list of failed ventures, each crossed out in red. Mr. Harrison kept it as a reminder. Then he began outlining 3 principles that had transformed his own trajectory. The first was simple but often ignored: research before action. He challenged Daniel to describe his past failures without blaming timing, competition, or lack of capital. As Daniel spoke, a pattern emerged. He had rushed and driven by excitement, not preparation. He had mistaken enthusiasm for expertise. Mr. Harrison compared it to building a house without laying a foundation. No matter how beautiful the design, without structure it collapses. He instructed Daniel to spend 3 full months studying any industry before launching again. Not days, not weeks, months of deliberate learning. The second principle addressed patience. Daniel's previous ventures had crumbled within months because he expected quick traction. Mr. Harrison explained that meaningful businesses rarely show real stability before 18 months of consistent effort. The early phase is usually uncomfortable. Months pass with little visible progress. Many people quit during that stretch, assuming the lack of immediate success means permanent failure. In reality, it is often just the natural beginning. He broke down the timeline into stages: initial struggle, gradual traction, then breakthrough. If Daniel committed to a 1.5 years without wavering, he would at least give his effort a fair chance. The third principle was focus. In his digital marketing agency, Daniel had tried to offer every possible service. That made him average across the board. Mr. Harrison advised him to choose one specific service within one clear market and become exceptional at it. For 3 months, Daniel studied. He attended early morning sessions with Mr. Harrison every week. They analyzed industries, dissected customer pain points, and reviewed case studies of companies that had succeeded and failed. Eventually, Daniel chose a narrow path: lead generation through LinkedIn for business-to-business technology companies. One service, one type of client, no distractions. He learned platform algorithms, sales cycles, and messaging strategies. Only after that preparation did he launch. He worked alone from his laptop with a simple guarantee: if he could not deliver qualified leads, clients would not pay. The first months were modest: 1 client, then 2, some left, some stayed. Doubt resurfaced, especially when his income barely covered food. But he reminded himself that he had committed to 18 months. This time he would not quit during the uncomfortable stage. Gradually, consistency produced results. Clients began seeing measurable outcomes and referred others. By the 13th month, a larger company signed a substantial contract. Revenue climbed from a few $100s to several thousand per month, then beyond. At the 18-month mark, he secured his biggest client yet. He was no longer scraping by. He was building momentum. He hired his first employee. Within 2 years, annual revenue reached hundreds of thousands. By the 3rd year, it crossed into the millions. Debts were paid. His parents saw tangible proof that persistence had not been foolishness. 5 years after that first meeting with Mr. Harrison, The company generated $10 million annually, employed dozens of people, and operated in multiple cities. The same man who once slept in his childhood bedroom questioning his worth now stood on stages sharing lessons learned the hard way. When young entrepreneurs approached him asking whether they should try again after failing, Daniel did not give them empty motivation. He shared structure, study deeply before launching, commit for a fixed period long enough to allow progress to compound, master one thing so thoroughly that the market cannot ignore you. He explained that each of his failed ventures had been expensive teachers. They exposed weaknesses he later corrected. Success was not built despite those failures but on top of them. The difference between his earlier collapses and his breakthrough was not sudden brilliance. It was discipline, preparation, and refusing to quit during the slow phase. Failure only becomes permanent when you decide to stop trying with intention. Before Mr. Harrison retired, Daniel visited him to express gratitude. The older man responded simply that he had not given Daniel anything new. He had only helped him see what was already there: resilience, the capacity to rise again after embarrassment, debt, and doubt. That quality cannot be purchased or inherited. It must be exercised. If you see yourself somewhere in Daniel's journey, understand this. Repeated setbacks do not disqualify you. They refine you if you are willing to analyze them honestly. Your next attempt must not be a copy of your last. It must be built on better foundations, stronger patience, and sharper focus. The gap between where you are and where you want to be may not require a miracle. It may simply require one more well-prepared attempt, carried through longer than you ever have before.